Welcome back to Clix with Q, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be your host, Q. Tonight we're going to be doing a pinup of Legion. If you've never seen the TV show Legion on FX, it's actually really a fantastic TV show. And if you've never read any Legion comic books, I'm going to have some suggestions for those at the very end here. Let's get right into it. All right, first we have Legion from the Wolverine and the X-Men set. He's number 038. He's got some keywords: Age of X, New Mutants, and X-Men. That X-Men keyword's going to be very useful. Obviously, you can build a lot of great X-Men teams off of that, and I've seen some more New Mutants pop up in the recent sets, and those are nice as well. His points altogether are 119. However, I would say if you're going to play him with modern figures in like a casual setting, I know people like during championships are real sticklers about points, but in a casual setting, I think it'd be fair to run this fella at, 80, 85. 119 is certainly far too much nowadays for what he's got, particularly when you look at his numbers there, his statistics. Anyway, he's got a trait called Hidden Personalities. Give Legion a free action and choose a standard power, then roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled. He acquires a personality quirk from the table below, and uses that and the standard power until your next turn. On a 1, he is Cowardly. Legion modifies his attack value by -2. On a 2, he is Confused. Legion modifies his speed and defense values by -1. 3 is Grounded. Legion can use Earthbound Neutralized. It's interesting here, it says can use. I think it should more appropriately say has to, but I don't know if that's the current phrasing in HeroClix rules, so that's probably why they don't say that. 4, Enraged. Legion can use Battle Fury, again with the can instead of has to. 5, Compassionate. Immediately heal all adjacent characters 1 click. That'll be interesting, particularly considering that it heals everybody, not just your friends. And 6, we have Savant. Legion modifies his combat values by 1+, choose another standard power, and he can also use that power. That's obviously the one you're going to want to be getting every time, but rolling a 6 is a little difficult. As it gets further on down the dial there, Legion has a flight special power called Endgame, the counter. Legion can use the Mystics team ability. So that's pretty useful. In a lot of the new X-Men sets, like the House of X, for instance, we've seen a lot of people who have the Mystics team ability from a long-range attack. But this is a little better because it's both long-range and close-range. Anyway, this Legion's a lot of fun. His dial's okay. I mean, obviously you can see it's a little bit dated. The numbers there, those 9 attacks, yeesh. You know, don't like seeing those 9s. But the sculpt is pretty good. At least certainly for back in those days, this sculpt, I consider this to be one of the better ones in those days. It's a lot of fun. Looks like Legion. You know, I mean, there's really not much to say about that sculpt. However, the next one. Right, next on the list we got Legion from the X-Men Dark Phoenix animated series set. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, that set is so great. If you ever watched the original X-Men animated series, you know, from the 90s, you have to pick up some pieces from that set because the sculpts look like it's from the cartoon. The stats are really great for the point values that they give them. Maybe like a slightly weaker than some of these modern sets, just ever so slightly. Like they're a little, maybe like 5 points less. But anyway, great set. If you can pick it up, I'm pretty sure they're still printing it. If you can pick it up, I would highly recommend it. This Legion is a super rare from that set. Really an excellent figure. He comes with those switch clicks, so he can be taken off. His dial can be removed, and you can have a different dial put onto him. So what we're going to do first is go over the 036B Legion, which is the regular Legion, surprisingly, instead of the A. But hey, I'm going to go over that first. So this Legion has just one keyword, New Mutants. Interesting that he lost the X-Men one, but kind of makes more sense anyway. He's got a trait, We Are Legion. At the beginning of your turn, roll a d6. Then you may add 1 or subtract 1 from the result. Then turn Legion's dial to that click number. He does not return to his initial click. You can't access click 0 in any other way. That's a really, that's going to be a fascinating one. It's not really too much of a crapshoot, although say you roll, a 5, you're going to be kind of stuck going with 4 or 6, or 5 if you wanted to do that. Click number 5 is not, it's not the worst. But, you know, it's kind of that trade-off of, do you want to try to get to click 0, which is really an unbelievable click, and if you started Legion on click 0, and then the enemy had to attack him to get him off of that click, you can always potentially go back to that click. This is also a really great way for Legion to heal during the game. So even if you get knocked down, you can just roll your dice, and hopefully you get a low number, roll on back to click number 1 or 2. He's got a special movement power on his second click, called Escape Number 2, the Chain. Autonomous symbol and flight symbol. When this character hits with a close attack, after resolutions generate a chain bystander. For those of you who are unaware what the autonomous symbol is, essentially when you move that character, it doesn't account towards your action total for your team. So when he's on that click, he won't count if you move him. And when he hits somebody, he'll generate this chain guy who has the same power. This is pretty much the exact same. So it's pretty rad. I've never had any success hitting somebody with that 9 attack. So yeah, that's that. He's got a special defense power on click number 4, Living Voodoo Doll. When Legion takes damage from an opponent's attack while this power is displayed, after resolutions, deal the attacker damage equal to the amount taken by Legion. That's pretty mean. A lot of my friends already know about that power, so they generally try to avoid attacking him on that click. And he's also close range primarily on that click. So what you really want to do is either have somebody telekinese or somebody carry him up to somebody when he's on that click, so they kind of are forced to hit him. So yeah, that's a fun dial there. As we look at his dial, it's very colorful, as you can see. Click number 3 is pretty useful for healing people. If you find that that's something that's necessary. He's got 3 clicks of probability control, 0, 1, and 7. Those are going to be hard to get to without, kind of putting yourself in a little bit of danger. But they're certainly very useful. And you can see as he continues further down the dial, he gets more and more powerful. I'm a big fan of that type of strategy. It's a very fun, people don't expect them to get more powerful as they go along. And it kind of puts them in a rough predicament. Anyway, we're going to move on to the title character version of Legion, 036A. And last but certainly not least, we have 036A, Legion, Fractured Savant. Again, from the X-Men Dark Phoenix animated series set. He has the keyword X-Men, which is actually very useful for putting him on an X-Men themed team. He is a title character, so you can only have one of those on your team. However, as we go into it, we'll see that he's quite well worth the points. As we look at his dial here, it's just 2 powers, well, 3, sorry. Sidestep and toughness pretty much the whole time, and then good old perplex near the end. And it looks a little barren, and you might be thinking to yourself, 85 points. I mean, even with that 4 damage on the front, it's not really worth 85 points. Well, let's get into it. So, Legion starts with 1 plot point, and his ability that gives him plot points is called I'm Not in Control. Free. Choose 2 different standard powers, then an opponent chooses one of those 2. Legion Fractured Savant can use the power chosen by your opponent until your next turn. So you'll get a plot point, and you'll get a different power. I try to make people choose between things like, say, Impervious or Probability Control. That's a hard choice. Or Outwit, throw an Outwit in there. It really is dependent upon who you're facing and how close Legion is to them. But I feel like it's a good idea to either give him a damage reducer or something that he'll be able to wallop them with on his next turn. Or his current turn, rather. His -1 plot point is I'm trying to maintain control. Choose 2 standard powers. Legion Fractured Savant can use the chosen powers until your next turn. So that's very nice. However, you do have to expend a point, and we'll see in a minute why that may not be the thing you want to do. -4 plot points, so he would have to use his I'm Not in Control 3 extra times in the game to do this. I Am Control. Free. Legion Fractured Savant can use all standard powers except Earthbound Neutralized and Battle Fury until the end of your next turn. So, I know it is 1 turn, but think about that. I mean, say somebody attacks you. Not only do you have immediately Impervious to roll for your 5. I mean, you've got Shape Change, Impervious, Super Senses, and even if they do hit you, it'll be reduced because you have Invincible. So he's just a powerhouse once you've used I Am Control. Think about also this. You can use Perplex, Probability Control, Outwit, Penetrating Psychic Blast. I mean, you can really really lay into somebody if you let him build up those points and then spend them on that. However, there is a trade-off. 85 points seems like a little bit little for that, right? Well, his trade-off is that when Legion Fractured Savant is KO'd, each opponent chooses 2 standard powers, and until your next turn, characters on that opponent's force can use those powers. Now, that could be the kiss of death to your team if it happens at the wrong time. So obviously, you kind of want to keep Legion. You want him to build those points up in the beginning, make those 3 attacks, or at least take the damage and not make those attacks. I mean, theoretically, what you could do is you could say, I'm going to give Legion either regeneration or, probability control, and your opponent's going to say, one of those 2. Now, they might choose probability control, but it's not likely. So you'll be able to get your plot point and then regenerate back that click you lost for not making an attack. So that is a way to go about it. We'll see that with a few other characters, too. Like, there's a very nice Deadpool Merc with the Mouth, who we'll go over in a little bit. He also has a similar thing where you can essentially just be racking up plot points when you would normally be taking damage, but because of the way in which the title abilities work, you'll essentially be negating the damage you take. So that's a very fun way to play him. You're going to want to pull him back at the end there so that you really don't want him to die. It might actually change the entire course of the game if he dies and you have a few people left. So I'd highly recommend, laying into them first with him and then having somebody telekinesis him back or carry him back or some form of him escaping from them. I mean, you could give him plasticity and he could just break away himself and run away. Either way, as you can see, this Legion is the Primo Legion. I mean, it is so much fun to be playing him and have your opponents choose what powers he uses and kind of putting them in that scenario where they have to choose between a rock and a hard place. And certainly not lastly, but not leastly, is this sculpt. I mean, okay, first things first, the sculpt itself is dynamic, it's interesting. It's got a dynamic pose for him, and then that background of energy behind him looks beautiful. And it's in no small part to the paint job that's been done on it. I mean, I don't know if you can see it through this video here, but it's kind of like orangish, yellowish, reddish, pinkish. So it's this beautiful mixture of those colors, but at the same time, it's got this almost metallic sheen to it that makes it really pop in real life. This figure, I say it a lot that this is one of my favorite sculpts. This is my favorite sculpt. That's the reason I'm doing this video, is because I love this Legion sculpt so much that I really just had to show you guys and show you what he can do, and maybe that'll inspire you to pick him up if you can. Speaking of things inspiring, I hopefully have inspired you to maybe take a look at the FX show, Legion. It's not entirely based on the comics. I mean, it's based on the comics, certainly, but it's its own original story. Very fascinating. It's almost like a play was filmed. Sometimes when you look at the choreography and the blocking and the lighting and the dialogue it's really a fascinating, beautiful show, very cerebral. And it keeps you guessing as each season goes by. So yeah, I'd highly recommend you guys watch that show. If you can pick up any comics with Legion, there's a few. There's a recent one called Legion Trauma, I believe it's called. Very fun comic. That's kind of what that first figure sculpt was based off of. No, excuse me, the second figure. Wow, it's been a while since I've read Trauma. But it is a good little mini-series with Legion, and it kind of gives you a glimpse into his whole life. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, there's going to be more of these. So yeah, stay tuned, and I'll keep them coming. Night, y'all.